Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 21st of October 2022. It's a Friday, and these are the stories that we will be discussing in detail during the course of the show. We have two stories for you today. Our first segment concerns the disqualification of a former Prime Minister and leader of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Mr. Imran Khan, by the Election Commission of Pakistan in a consensus verified and disqualified the former Prime Minister under the sections 137, 167 and 173 of the Elections Act 2017 and also Article 63 1p of the Constitution under the Elections Act 2017. This is going to be our first segment. Because of the Toshakhana case, the former Prime Minister has now been disqualified by the Election Commission of Pakistan. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Financial Action Task Force that is meeting in a plenary in Paris as we speak to decide, amongst other things, Pakistan's moving out of the grey list. The announcement is going to be made later tonight. What will happen? Is Pakistan finally going to come out of the grey list after a period of 3 years? We will only have to wait a couple of more hours to see how the outcome is going to be. Nevertheless, Pakistan has complied with all 34 of the points that were put forward by the FATF. This is going to be our second story. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the disqualification of former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan, also leader of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, by the Election Commission of Pakistan in a consensus verdict, and he has been disqualified under various sections, including 137, 167, 173 of the Elections Act 2017, as he had made false statements and incorrect declaration before the Commission in the Statement of Assets and Liabilities filed by him for the year 2020-2021. Also under the Article 63 1p of the Constitution, read with these sections 137 and 173 of the Elections Act 2017, he stands disqualified. We've been joined by our first guest, Azeen Hafeez, who's a legal expert. Azeen, thank you very much to have joined us. Azeen, how do you see this development under the ambit of the Constitution of Pakistan?
So, Assalamualaikum, Omar, and thank you for having me, firstly. In the light of our legal constitution and the precedents that we have, the very important case here to look at is the Mia Muhammad Nawaz Sharif case, Imran Khan Ahmed versus Mia Muhammad Nawaz Sharif case. And interestingly, the point that is also something that, if taken the other way around, will also be something that can be the differentiating factor between the two, which is that in the Mia Muhammad Nawaz Sharif case, it was the receivables that led to his disqualification. In this case, it is what, so in the previous case, it was it is because received is obviously, has more weightage than what was receivable. In that, we for the is
all right, Azeen, I'd like to also quote a bit of the judgment that the Election Commission of Pakistan put forward today. He said, talking about the former Prime Minister, the Election Commission said in its detailed judgment that the respondent also made evasive and ambiguous statements in his reply that the gifts purchased by him, here we are referring to Toshakhana, during the financial year 2019-2020 were gifted by him or on his behalf. The relevant column 1 of B is marked as non-applicable as there is no explanation on the remark of Cole. Therefore, it is established that he has deliberately concealed material far beyond his means. He has submitted false declaration of his assets and liabilities, in particular material which entails serious consequences under the Constitution and law. Balakh Sher Khosa Sahab, Advocate Supreme Court, joins us online. Khosa Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Khosa Sahab, it's an important day as far as Pakistan's Constitution is concerned, and of course the legality of disqualifying a former Prime Minister of Pakistan. Will, in your point of view, this decision set a precedent in Pakistan regarding official gifts and the urgency to deposit these gifts in the Toshakhana as a matter of honesty?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. First of all, thank you very much for taking me on board, and I'll not give my personal opinion because a lawyer has to give the opinion with the constitution and the laws of the land clearly, loudly will say so. I'll reflect the same as per what the constitution says. Well, this day is a very important day for the people of Pakistan, and they should know what exactly the ruler or the former prime minister has been doing. You see, let me read out what is loud and clear, because it has nothing doing with any government who has made any references against them. It is from the Prime Minister House, which the Bushra Bibi and Mr. Imran Khan has made these proofs, and they were available in the Prime Minister House. They were being scrutinized, and after getting scrutinized, it was found. May I read that, please? Bushra Bibi and Imran Khan kept the precious watch valued. This is a reference at rupees 85 million, gifted by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman during his very first visit to Saudi Arabia on September 18, 2018, by paying only 17 million. Oh my goodness, look at that. Whom the Constitution and the Supreme Court has declared Sadiq and Amin, what he has done. And even not to this extent, when the tax returns were being filed during his premiership, this aspect was missing, that he is carrying such like emoluments and gifts from Toshakhana into his own pocket, and then again selling them at a very high price. I think so that it has nothing doing with any revenge. It is him. He himself became his enemy by doing something illegal and by showing the world and the people of Pakistan that he is the most honest person on the earth. So definitely the law has to take its course, and the law, what happened today, it is in front of the world.
Now, there are different sections that have been implicated as far as the former Prime Minister is concerned, on the basis of which he has been disqualified. But all of it is based on the gifts, the Toshakhana. Do you feel a new policy regarding Toshakhana that is in the making and that is going to be introduced soon is going to be an important hallmark for all future premiers as well as the current premier? And also, do you feel, in your point of view, what should be or what will be the contours of a policy around Toshakhana gifts?
You see, it is the government who always makes the policies, and the policies were made by Imran Khan, his regime, his government, and he himself violated those policies. You see, it has nothing doing with anybody else. It is the Sadiq and Amin who was declared by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, the ousted Prime Minister. And even you see, it is very clear that in the other reference, you see, it is not only one watch. It is they retained 7 Rolex watches, multiple necklaces, bracelets, rings, multiple diamond chains, gold pens, and even dinner sets. Look at that. Even dinner sets by paying little amounts of the money. So I think so it should be, now the president has been set down that whoever the premier is going to take any Toshakhana to his own pocket. You see, this was a custom which was adopted, and the government adopted then after the constitutional amendment. That it was from the Ottoman Empire that even the gifts were given, and even in the royal, His Excellency the British Queen. It is for the state, it is not for the person. And if you have to purchase them, then you have to purchase them at the price of 85 million. You cannot take it at the price of 17 million. So that is why the article of the Constitution has been hit by Mr. Imran Khan, and the Election Commission has rightly disqualified him as being the member of the National Assembly.
Azeen, there is a whole, controversy that was put forward by the previous government as far as the whole concept of Sadiq and Amin is concerned. Now that the former premier, Mr. Imran Khan, has himself been implicated in something that questions his ability of being a Sadiq and Amin, and also I'd like to refer here to what our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said, that the nation has witnessed that Imran Khan has made personal earnings using the office of the Prime Minister. The idol of truthfulness and honesty stands shattered. He has also urged the PTI chief to surrender before the law instead of fighting against law using bullets and batons and bringing the rioters. What are the implications, constitutional, judicial and political, of this decision in your point of view?
You see, it is now, number one, it is the government of Pakistan who can be a complainant in a case as per the 2017 election rules, in which he has been disqualified, and which very loudly and clearly says if the Prime Minister or the Parliament of the National Assembly is dishonest, the word is used, dishonest. In this case, the dishonesty has been affirmed, proved. So a case FIR can be registered against the former Prime Minister. And number two, judicially, I think so, the judiciary of this country, of Pakistan, cannot close its eyes and cannot brush away the reference and the documents which were there when the former Prime Minister was holding the office of the Premiership. These documents are duly signed by Imran Khan himself. It cannot be brushed away. So to my point of view and to my the knowledge of law and as per the laws of the land and the judgments which are being laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court of Pakistan, I don't think so the judiciary is going to keep their eyes shut or closed. Definitely where there is evidence, where there is enough evidence to prosecute somebody, then such like high-profile cases are being taken and they are being convicted or they are being acquitted. So in this case, Imran Khan himself is responsible for his acts, for the Toshakhana, for the gifts which he has taken and he has sold them at the lower price.
All right. Khosa Saab, kindly stay on line with us. We now want to revert to Azeen Hafeez, who's the legal expert, our second guest. Azeen, you wanted to add something to what Mr. Khosa has just said.
Yes, Omar, if I please may add to that. So the situation that we have is that Imran Khan can obviously no longer be Pakistan Tehreek as per 2018 Supreme 366. That's one implication we have. Moreover, another legal implication, which also has obviously naturally with these cases has political effects to it, is that I still see a disparity between some people are suggesting that he's been disqualified for 5 years. Most is suggesting that they've been qualified for a year. In this case, it appears legally that the bar maybe has more weightage towards what PI is saying right now, because 631P itself says for the time being. So, with the literal reading of law itself, it's for the time being, mostly refers to a certain time period, a session. So as it is only as long as this session lasts, and once this expires and there's another session, then the merits of this disqualification are likely to be reviewed again.
All right. Azeen, also, what do you feel are going to be the judicial and constitutional ramifications of this decision taken by the Election Commission of Pakistan? Do you feel it sets a precedent?
The thing is, we cannot say this particularly sets the precedent. As I suggested earlier, that in the Mian Muhammad Nawaz Sharif case, the precedence was already set.
Yes.
The only thing is, we can say it has been extended. Again, I would go back to my first argument, because where it was receivable, it has also gone to what has been received. So I would only say this is an extension of the precedent that already has been set, and I wouldn't really suggest that a new precedent has been put forward.
All right. What are going to be the political implications of all of this for the PDM, that is the ruling coalition at this moment, and of course the opposition, that is the PTI, in your point of view, as of course a legal expert?
So again, as legal expert, I would stick to the law, and the only implication I right now see is that PTI needs to come forward with a face, with an energy that can probably replace the chairman and all that he has been holding. Because again, according to precedents, he cannot be the chairman anymore. And I would stick to this as legal expert.
All right, Azeen, also, what are the prospects of disqualification for life? You've talked about a year or 5 years just a couple of minutes back from contesting the elections under Article 62(1)(f), Article 2, Article 3 of the Constitution in the Toshakhana scam, as currently the Election Commission of Pakistan's verdict is based on Article 63(1)(p). Azeen, can you hear us? All right, so Azeen apparently cannot hear us. I'd like to revert to what the decision was as far as the Election Commission of
If you
Pakistan
understand.
is. You can hear us now, Azeen?
My
I think there seems to be some kind of a technical issue due to which we can't hear Azeen properly. As soon as the connection is re-established, we'll revert to her. Nevertheless, what is being said? All right, Azeen, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Am I audible?
All right. Yes, you are audible. So, did you hear my question?
I think I did. Tell me if I've answered it rightly. Again, I would, for your question, I would repeat the part that 63(1)(p) itself very precisely says for the time being. Now, I think the judgment is, the full judgment is now out, and it was like a few minutes before the program, so I didn't get a chance to go through the entire judgment yet, or probably is not even out yet. So it's hard to comment as to how far the Election Commission has gone to elaborate this. But if you go by the wordings of law, again, I would say for the time being does not suggest a very extensive time period. 5 years for this would mean a lot of time. In this case, this might just last until the expiry of this session of submission of statements. That's what it appears to be.
All right. Also, now that Mr. Imran Khan has been de-seated as a member of the National Assembly, you know that the recently by-polls were held and he had been declared victorious on all of them, so he stands disqualified from all of those seats as well. Do you feel that by-polls are the only option now to be held for all the seats on which he was declared victorious?
I believe it is, and I also legally would believe that this would be the correct way to go forward.
All right. Azeen, when you look at the different laws that govern, gifts, official gifts being taken and how they need to be handled, you've talked about the two previous cases, that of the current cases and the previous case as well. Do you feel that there needs to be a lot of responsibility as far as leaders of a state like Pakistan need to undertake when it comes to important issues such as gifts or other important issues that could legally, put them down or, empower or disempower them in the future?
Absolutely. See, so even in this case, when Imran Khan did not himself state these received items, but also when he was challenged, the question on this, he did not challenge it. He did accept that this is what happened. And for us to, I believe, moving forward, it is very important to be able to differentiate between personal assets and assets of the state. Irrespective of the office you hold, there's a very fine line, and that should always be maintained.
When you talk of fine lines, do you feel that the disqualification of Mr. Imran Khan in this case could lead to further cases against him and could also lead for him serving some jail time or, having some more strict laws put into against him in the future or in the coming days? Do you feel this is just going to be another set of, because there are a lot of issues that have cropped up as far as the former premier is concerned, and Toshakhana was just one of those cases. There are others as well. A lot of leaders like Maryam Nawaz Sahiba says that he needs to be put behind bars. Do you feel that is a possibility as a legal expert?
Okay, so see, this case itself only disqualifies him. Does not convict him. The trial court will now convict him, and as I know, we already have a high court sitting tonight over this case. Definitely conviction will come from the conviction courts, and it's not a small thing. This disqualification itself. And obviously it will, I legally definitely it will bring, because it's coming from such a strong body itself, it will have its legal implications.
Do you feel finally, Azeen, this is my last question to you, finally, do you feel that rules and regulations when it comes to important position holders such as prime ministers or presidents or chief ministers or governors are concerned need to be stricter so that the persons who are holding these positions can adhere to those laws, understanding properly that they cannot deviate from them in any way whatsoever?
No, I would not say that the law needs to be any more strict because of the fact
The
that the law
application of the law, let's put it that way, the application of the law.
even in that sense, if we really look at the two cases that we are comparing, especially the one in hand, we do see an implication which has led to consequences. So an action was done, and it had its legal consequences. This is what legal consequences will look like. The disqualification and probably a follow-up conviction, or we'll find out.
All right, only time will tell what's in store for the former premier, but for the moment he has been disqualified under different articles, and I'd like to repeat those as far as that is concerned. 137, 167, 173 of the Elections Act 2017, also the Article 63, 1P of the Constitution, read with these sections 137 and 173 of the Elections Act 2017. Thank you very much, Azeen, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important development that has come on the constitutional front, and of course it lays the ground for further implications as far as the former premier is concerned, because there are a lot of cases on him. Let's see what the coming days have in store for the former premier and for the PTI. Only time will tell. Let's come to our second segment that concerns the FATF and the decision of the plenary that is going to come out in a few hours' time. The organization is at this moment sitting down and discussing various issues concerning the FATF. This is a 2-day plenary, and today is the last day of that plenary. We'll know in a couple of hours whether Pakistan is out of the grey list. More in the following report.
The first FATF plenary under the 2-year Singapore presidency of T. Raja Kumar is taking place in Paris. In its bid to use FATF as geopolitical weapon against Pakistan, Indian media launched factually incorrect, malevolent campaign. Responding mischievous conduct of Indian media ahead of FATF plenary meeting, Foreign Office spokesperson Asim Iftikhar categorically rejected orchestrated campaign against Pakistan by Indian media. Asim Iftikhar stated that despite India's feverish attempts to politicize the process and cast doubts on Pakistan's efforts and accomplishments, FATF agreed in its June 2022 plenary meeting that Pakistan had fully completed all substantive and procedural requirements of both its 2018 and 2021 action plans. China has once again thwarted an Indian move in United Nations to malign Pakistan by highlighting moribund organizations. Pakistan's UN ambassador Munir Akram responded to this vile Indian campaign by stating that besides supporting terrorist groups in Pakistan, India is also going for Chinese targets to sabotage CPEC. Pakistan was listed in 2018, and FATF tasks Pakistan to implement 2 different action plans simultaneously, and the country has accomplished the conditions of the watchdog. The watchdog's teams conducted its visit in September, and according to the Foreign Office, it was smooth and successful. FATF and the wider international community has repeatedly acknowledged the steps taken by Pakistan to improve its anti-money laundering and counter-terror financing regime. A removal from the list would mark the culmination of a 4-year reforms process that has required far-reaching changes to Pakistan's financial system, in particular to laws governing money laundering and terror financing.
Dr. Usman Chohan, who is a political economist, joins us online. Usman, thank you very much to have joined us. I wished you could have been in the studios, but nevertheless, it's good to have you on board. Usman, FATF, a lot has been said. A lot has been done by the government. How optimistic are you of Pakistan coming out of the grey list tonight?
Thank you for inviting me. I also wish I could be with you in person. I believe that the probability of us leaving this grey list nonsense that has continued for so long is very high, and I'm very proud of the achievements that Pakistan has made, the progress it's made in the last 4 years. It's a multi-stakeholder effort. It addresses so many, it's almost 30 points that they have accomplished. which has involved the bureaucracy, which has involved medium-sized organizations, which has involved the police, the FIA, and so many other institutions working together to make sure that we have a more transparent and efficient financial system. So I really do hope that this is the end of this journey and you can invite me for some other reason on your show.
You have also a book to give to me, autographed by yourself. Nevertheless, there has been a whole wild campaign by the Indian side in order to kind of disrupt this plenary against Pakistan, or not in Pakistan's favor. Do you feel India succeeded? Because of course we've had China on our side. We've also had the comments from the Pakistani side that laid down the bare facts and figures.
Absolutely. The purpose of this was to try to throw a dirty wrench at this point, because even the Indians are now assessing that the compliance of Pakistan in money laundering, terror financing, and all these other stipulations is very high. They felt that they might give it one last, what they call in the United States a Hail Mary, and try to sabotage it by asking for the prohibitions or sanctions against two individuals who are related to now moribund, as Ambassador Munir Akram has rightly said, moribund organizations. So it was a kind of silly attempt, in my opinion. And China put in the council said, no, thanks. We just hold that thought. And so these sorts of things are just, it wouldn't really matter anyways, I believe. I think it's one of those antagonistic things that catches the news eye. But I don't think it would have succeeded anyways, because when the proof of burden is so much in favor of Pakistan having accomplished so much, I'd really like to see how India's system is doing in terms of money laundering and terrorist financing now. I think
speaking of the Indian system and how they deal with money laundering, we know, we've discussed that in the past as well. The open support of the TTP, of the BLA by India, doesn't just that aspect makes it the primary candidate to be put into the blacklist, leave alone the grey list. Why isn't the FATF moving in that direction?
Yes, precisely. You could pick any single one aspect of their entire
I just
architecture.
picked one.
And this one is a very good example of just their support for these sorts of organizations should be enough to put them on the blacklist, really, but a gray list would be a good start. I take your point. I should also indicate that there is a sort of shift in gravity in the FATF because, it's a very political and politicized organization. There's a bit of shift in gravity because there's more and more open voices that the FATF now target its crossfires towards Russia. Ukrainians are arguing for this, other countries are arguing for this. So Pakistan is an old story, and the sort of antagonism that was generated by India and its sympathizers over this time is an old story now, and it's kind of silly. So what I do anticipate is that there'll be much more fervent discussion about Russia, which, as you know, since 2022, early March or late February, has been disconnected from many parts of the global financial system, such as SWIFT. So if we want to look at where the FATF is going, I tell you that I think it's going towards Russia is more in their crosshairs now.
All right. Nevertheless, the Indian involvement or implication in continuing to put Pakistan in the grey list is no hidden fact. We've had open statements on that, and I'd like to quote Mr. Jaishankar here, who's the Indian Minister for External Affairs. He said that the Modi-led BJP government ensured, and I'm quoting what he said, that Pakistan remained on the FATF's grey list. In your point of view, if a person as important as Mr. Jaishankar says that on the record, why isn't the international community doing something as far as that is concerned? Why is there silence from the international community? I understand that there are other avenues that the international community is more preoccupied with, Russia for one, China for another. Nevertheless, this is something that needs to be taken into account.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely right. I also believe that the international financial system and the international governance system needs a very serious rehaul. Why? Because now we're entering, probably under my expectations, a recession by the beginning of 2023, if not earlier, and many countries will come under immense strain. At the same time that you have economies around the world struggling, you have oceans of money in these tax havens, these small islands, or even jurisdictions in the West that have all of this. Plus, India continues to not serve its people by having such large money laundering schemes and the financing of terrorists and so on. So I really do believe that the global system will be pushed to the brink by the stresses, and hopefully that is a critical juncture for us to make a better, fairer, more transparent international system. For us, they put this pressure on us, and for 4 years we've been working to make our system better.
2018 and we are now end of 2022, Usman. But nevertheless, looking at what happened in the past and looking forward, do you feel the FATF needs to put into application rules and regulations that bar members that have been openly taking part in disqualifying or trying to disqualify other nations or put them on certain lists?
I think there's a very strong argument to do that. You can bar countries from this sort of thing for various other reasons, but the thing is, by the end, you'll end up with nobody sitting in there because the global system is a really big mess. But I understand the argument, and it's true that there is a very strong argument to point the crosshairs at India for what it has done in various terms. Yes.
All right, Usman, what are the stakes as far as Pakistan is concerned once it comes out of the grey list, and we all are hoping that it does?
A very positive outcome in terms of our economic thing. You see, one estimate that the government provided 2 years ago was that it was a $10 billion annual loss. And that's because it's harder to do transactions with entities in Pakistan. That cover is then lifted. It's also a bit of a offsetting thing because a sovereign rating was downgraded, as were many other countries because of the economic conditions. So at the time where you have downgrading and you have FATF, things get very bad. So at least remove the FATF's sword of Damocles and then work on the economy, and we can proceed forward. So what I'm saying is that things do get better because there are losses and high costs for other people to deal with entities here. Those costs now go away.
All right. Now that, inshallah, once Pakistan comes out of the grey list, what measures need to be taken by our country to become economically stable? We understand that Pakistan is going through a whole plethora of issues, whether it be economic in nature or whether it be humanitarian or climate induced.
We can fight on many fronts, but I would like all of our leadership and our public to get on one page and put economics as a priority. Sometimes we get involved in the urgent and not the important. That's one thing. The second thing is we have to start to lobby along with other developing countries for the IMF to be very proactive in helping and not with the difficult stipulations at this time, as well as other international agencies. The last meeting of the IMF with all the central bankers going was a big disappointment. We also need to try to, because we're very vocal in the FATF, we participate in this stuff. We also need to persuade these organizations to help make a more stable international system. That alone would help Pakistan as well as other developing countries a great deal. So what I'm saying is lobbying is a big part of it, and then us all coming on one page internally. These are probably the generalist contours of how we should approach it, with many little tactical things in each category.
Usman, also, do you feel we are going to have more international financial institutions coming to Pakistan once it's out of the grey list? And do you feel Pakistan needs to be evolve its strategy as far as inviting all these international financial institutions and other NGOs or even multinationals to come? Do you feel that the procedure needs to be simplified in order to attract them?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think that the ease of doing business has always been a target we should aim for. We have made progress over the years, but at times things slow down in terms of getting better. And the rankings are competitive, so other countries are also working hard. So it's a race. And so a lot of effort has to be done on the ease of doing business. The other premise in your question is that we as a government should be focusing on this. But I actually believe that as the FATF's sword of Damocles is removed, private incentives become very strong for participating globally. So you don't need the government to do this. You actually need people and organizations to be more proactive. And they were held back by the FATF for 4 years now. Now that should, inshallah, get out of the way. And so I do want to see more private initiative, organizational initiative to interact with the world to generate commerce, exchange, and trade.
All right, Usman, finally, what are the issues that you feel presently the country is facing economically? I understand there are the issues that we can see on the forefront, but what are those issues that we need to tackle swiftly and maybe diplomatically in order for Pakistan to come out of this whole turmoil that it is engulfed in quicker than anticipated?
It's not easy to get out of this turmoil for any country. You will see even developed countries get into a lot of trouble. You've heard about what's happening in the UK. But at the same time, our long-term targets, which require immediate action actually, is to generate export-driven growth, exporting better manpower as well. So basically you cut the current account deficit you suffer from. And the other one is the fiscal deficit, which means strengthening your taxation system as well as reconciling the size of government, particularly at the provincial level. And the third thing I would say is better governance at all tiers so that you create more value from the resources you have, including preparing for disasters, including such as pandemics and floods and all of these things that loom in the background. If we can do these three things, I think we're already on the right path, and I certainly see the capability of the country to do it, inshallah.
All right. There was a lot of talk, and of course Pakistan complied with the anti-money laundering, the CFT regime. Do you feel that the laws concerning the anti-money laundering need to be made more stringent for no issue of the kind that we have encountered with the FATF to recur?
No, I think that the laws are very comprehensive and a lot of the work has done. The challenge is always implementing laws. If you go back to the books of the laws that we have had, even in this domain, anti-money laundering, countering finance, even the laws of the 90s were very good. It's just that there were some loopholes that have been filled, important loopholes that have been filled. But it's always a question of implementation. And this takes us back to a philosophical question about our culture. Is it that when external agents put sanctions on us unfairly, because we're not the worst offender at anything in the world, but if they put these things unfairly on us, is that the impetus for us to fix our system? Or should we be thinking about our system in advance and then doing it? I mean, do you really want to have the stick over your head all the time, everybody's angry at you and you try to fix it, or would you rather fix it yourself in advance and then proceed so that the world admires you and follows your example? So I believe that a lot of this work that we are doing now, which is very laudable, could have been done 3 decades ago. So we have to make up for lost time, and the longer we wait to do these things, the bigger the challenge becomes. So as a new generation of leaders will come, their burden will be greater. This involves debt, this involves deficits, this involves the systems of financial markets, this involves participating in the digital economy, making the best use of our youth bulge. All of these things are best done in a timely manner. Time is of the essence in all these things. I really wish this FATF would not have been operable as a tool for countries such as India to deploy against us. You see, because we should have been strong enough in our financial system to begin with. So I really want us to go from a carrot-driven society rather than a stick-driven society.
Lesson learned in your point of view?
Absolutely.
For Pakistan.
Absolutely.
For Pakistan.
Absolutely, because the stakes become so high that, you just can't proceed. FATF is no trifling matter, nor is the IMF. And sometimes there are merits to the things that they say. It's just, I wonder why they target us so much. And that's where the politics comes in. But the fact is that some of the things that the IMF says really do make sense. Some of the things the FATF, some, not all, make sense. So the fact is that having a well-functioning society governed by the people, for the people, where capital and talent are paired together to maximize value for the public, that is something you should aim for anyways. And the fact is that we've needed a stick from time to time to get things done. It's very unfortunate because it puts you on the back foot, it agitates the mind.
All right, technical question, Usman. The FATF says being on the grey list does not mean any extra due diligence measures by financial institutions, but the body does stress the need to consider associated risks when dealing with such countries. Then, I mean, if on the one hand the FATF said it has no such, extra due diligence for the country, then why are we so afraid of the grey list on the FATF? I'd like to understand that from an economist.
The fact is that whenever they come, inspectors for any reason from abroad, they can only get a glimpse of things. Usually they're very, very smart people, so just showing them a little bit gives them an idea of how things are, whether they're coming to inspect your financial system or anything else. So the fact is they can only sample what is here. That's why due diligence is important. If you have a well-functioning system, you can ask them to tour, look at whatever they want, ask any questions to anyone they want, and they can go away satisfied. So gray list is just their inference that things might be out there that they weren't able to sample, which leads to further doubts. Blacklist is obviously very different, where they know it's bad and they don't even need to hear your story. But gray list means that they're in a kind of discovery process. In a philosophical sense, it's a discovery process, and they still have doubts, so they keep you there. And they've kept you there for very long. My point is here that actually Pakistan made a lot of reform by the end of 2021. And so we didn't have to be kept on for so long, because the longer that they are dissatisfied, and they really do set high unfair standards sometimes, the fact that they're not satisfied actually leads to a long period where you are suffering losses. You see, if they had taken us off the list by 2021, we would be in an even stronger position today. I give you the example that in September 2021, our foreign exchange reserves were in excess of $20 billion with the state bank alone, plus $6 billion in the private banking system. And now they have shrunk to a number where we come into a position of weakness, as we discussed with lenders abroad, to cover up that deficit. So it's so surprising that from 20 billion to 6 billion, and I'm not saying that's our fault, it isn't, because there's a war, the full-blown war in Europe, there's an oil price issue, COVID hasn't really receded, and there's still very stringent policies on COVID around the world. So in these conditions, I couldn't possibly have imagined that things would get so bad around the world, but they will. And in fact, I tell you, unfortunately, 2023 will be a more difficult year for the rest of the world, not just for us. So you should brace yourself psychologically.
Bracing yourselves, do you feel the world needs to brace itself for FATF and organizations such as FATF? Pakistan has been embroiled with it on more than one occasion. Do you feel the FATF will continue to use its pressure tactics for other countries as well? I know 2 countries are on the blacklist as we speak, but do you feel in the future other countries might be in danger from the effects of FATF?
Yes, that's a very good question. Absolutely. As I alluded to earlier, I think that a lot of the discussion that's happening in this 2-day plenary involves targeting Russia. You see, because they're already out of the SWIFT system. A lot of the ways that they did financial exchange overseas previously was excluded. It was removed. It's not accessible to them anymore. There were exceptions for the gas sector for a while, but basically finance has been the avenue of Western countermeasures against Russia's aggression. And Russia has responded in a strong manner, and it has that energy reliance, and it is putting all its chips on the table. But finance was the domain where the counterattacks happened. If finance is that domain, then FATF always looms in the back of people's minds. Many important Ukrainians, for example, are writing at this time that FATF should be activated. And although I'm not sitting in the plenary, I imagine that that voice has been echoed among important people. And your question is the FATF going to be used against other countries? The first one that comes to mind is Russia, and later on it may be other countries for this reason. And I wouldn't have said that Russia is a huge money laundering target or terrorist target, but you can always reframe the objectives of FATF because it's been done 4 times. It started out against the war on drugs in the 90s and 80s, and then it became something to do with terrorism after 9/11, and then it became something against nuclear proliferation. And you know what, when you find briefcases of uranium in India, I think you could just slice them down right there just for the FATF's purpose. And now it's going into the digital economy and cryptocurrencies. So FATF's mandate will evolve, and so more and more pretext will be applied for the FATF to engage with countries that the powers that be don't like. So yes.
All right. So in this whole scenario of evolution of FATF policies, let's hope that its policy for Pakistan changes and we come out of that grey list. Only a couple of hours remain, Usman, for me and you and the whole of the world and our countrymen to know what is happening as far as Pakistan and its relationship with the FATF is concerned. We remain optimistic. I'm sure you are as well, Usman, because we have complied with all the 34 points that were put forward by the FATF. It's only a matter of hours, so we cannot really, say concretely what is going to happen, but we remain optimistic, more optimistic than in the previous months. Thank you very much, Usman, to have joined us. That was Usman Chohan, Dr. Usman Chohan, political economist, talking to us and in quite a detail about the FATF procedure and its relationship with Pakistan and where Pakistan stands today. We all hope that Pakistan will, inshallah ta'ala, come out of this grey list in a couple of hours' time. just a couple of hours' time before we know that. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. Today is the last day of the week. We'll see you inshallah on Monday when new story segments are pertaining to us, you and Pakistan. As I always end my show, kindly help those who've been affected by the floods, 33 million plus people. Help in whichever capacity you can, whether it be by sending a text message to 9999 and sending 10 rupees through that text, or by giving more money or your clothes or your shoes or water or food to all those who are in need of that. Help them, because this is what our religion teaches us, this is what our society teaches us, and this is what is the most respectable way to do in order for our country to come out of this turmoil. Allah Hafiz and have a great weekend.